My name is Kasanda Bill. I'm a Kenyan amputee. I'm a biker, and I do digital marketing. I was born a normal kid. I grew up in a normal family like any other. I grew up in Busia, a place called Nambale. So I went to a public school like most of us. Went to a public high school. I didn't qualify to go to university. So immediately after high school, I started doing some few jobs to get myself independent. So after that, I got scholarship from an organization called New World International. I went to New York. I studied interior design. After that, I was brought back into the country for a couple of months. I went back to New York again. I did community development. Then I went to Ireland for my first job under New World International. It's an Irish organization. So I spent like close to 8 months there. Then I was posted back into Kenya because they were partnering up with a local organization called iCross. So I came into Kenya, worked with iCross for how many years? So many, for close to 5, 6 years. So for me, I've always been passionate about the creative field. Then after some time, I kind of loved the fact that marketing is not just the way we look at it. It's something deeper than just walking up to somebody and telling them, here is the glass. There is some mechanism around it. So when I started reading about it, it really intrigued me. And actually, marketing is very, very powerful. And it has got a lot to do with just what you're selling. So it's not what you're selling, it's how you're selling it. So after some time, I was like, okay, I would really, really want to combine this, whatever I've studied over a period of time, into one. So yeah, I was like, I want to start a digital marketing company. So I opened my own digital marketing company. It's the one I'm running currently. It's called Jibebe Media. Yeah, so my passion for biking was, I think it started when I was a kid. My dad has always had bikes. I grew up in a family where there were bikes all along since when I was a kid. So my first time to move a bike properly as me independently without being assisted was when I was 14 years. So that was the first time. But I did it illegally because I stole my dad's bike when he was away. I hope he's not watching this. Then we used to go down to the farm and just ride the bike. So after some time he discovered we were doing that. We were punished and we were banned from actually sitting or even moving close to the bikes. So when I started working and had my own money, I was like, okay, biking has always been something I've always been intrigued about. So I was like, okay, let me buy my own bike. Saved money, bought my first bike. I owned my bike when I was 23. It was a 250cc. But that was not the first time I was riding. When I was studying, I used to ride people's bikes. Especially in States, it's easy to hire a bike for a period of time. So I had that exposure. So when I came back, I bought a 250cc Honda CBR. I rode it for 1 month. I was like, it's underpowered. So I sold it. I sold it after 1 month. Then I bought a 600cc. I rode a 600cc for a while. I was like, I needed something bigger. So the passion kept growing, and the curiosity in me always wanted to explore more and more and more and more. I think it's clear even from my career. So with the bikes, I rode this bike for a while, then I was like, I want to try something new. After a period of time, I started hanging around with the bikers here in Kenya. We used to go riding over the weekend. It turned out to be, it's like every other weekend we are going out for rides. Then there's something came up that guys were racing. So we were racing on Kenyan roads. So it was very intriguing, kind of. Then the first time I went to watch a race, I was like, okay, this is something I would want to do. Guys were like, it's risky, it's scary. I was like, okay, yeah, this is something. I've always been, I've always been thrilled to do something that is thrilling more than just normal. So after the first race I watched, I was like, okay, I want to start practicing. So I started practicing silently at my own. That was when the bypass was being built, still new. So I used to go there, just ride, enjoy myself, practice. Used to go to Kiganjo every weekend just to practice, you ride with other people. So the disadvantage here in Kenya, there's no proper track to actually, for you to test your skills. So you're learning on a public road. So you don't get to maximize your potential in terms of learning because it's very, very limiting. You can't do much. So that was how we learned how to like race in Kenya. So after a period of time, when it got to 2015, I was like, okay, I want to race properly. That was like the national championship in 2015. So it was the finals. We went out for qualifying. I qualified to race. Then I was given the race license on that day. It was the most exciting thing for me. I was like, oh, at the end of the day, I get to race. So on 11th of October 2015, so that was the race day. The day started normally, woke up, made breakfast, drove down to Kiganjo with friends, prepared for the race. The race started early in the morning. So it involved with lots of qualifyings. So there are qualifyings that were happening all through the day so that you get to the finals. So when it got to the finals, we were only 3 of us, me and 2 of my friends. So because we don't have a track in Kenya, we were racing on a public road. So we were supposed to go all the way to the end of the road, turn back, then come. So whoever gets to the end of the road first gets to be the position first coming back. So going up, I ended up being the first guy to get to the end of the finish line. Turned back. While we were coming back, the guys who I was racing against were very, very good. So they kind of overtook me at the start line. So I had to play catch up to actually get close to them because they were very, very fast. But at that time, you're trying to push your bike to its limits. You're also pushing yourself to its limits. Why? Because you just want to be the first. Then we got to a really long stretch. The bikes were clocking up to like 300 kmph. So when it got to a point where we were supposed to slow down, I started slowing down very, very late. It was too late to negotiate that corner. So it was like an S-curve. So you take the right-hander, then the left-hander. So I slowed down, but I didn't manage to slow enough. So I took the right-hander successfully. But it was now a descending ground. So when I started taking the left-hander, because it's descending, the bike picked up more speed than I presumed. So I couldn't negotiate the corner. Went wide, the bike hit the Pelican Road sign. I slammed onto the bike, and it's during that commotion that I lost my foot on the spot. Then I was thrown back to the road. So when I got back to the road, actually by the time I was landing on the road, I didn't know I've lost my foot. So actually my mind was telling me, wake up, you need to wake up now, get your bike and follow the guys. While I was trying to wake up, that's when I discovered that I wasn't feeling both of my legs, and 2, the right one was actually oozing too much blood. There was just too much blood on my right leg. So I was like, maybe there's something wrong. While I was trying to process what was happening, the medics arrived. They told me just to relax, and they took over. They examined me. After a period of time, they told me, you've lost your foot. We have to rush you to the hospital so that they can put it back. Actually, at that time, I wasn't panicked as such because they offered me a solution. They were like, okay, you've lost your foot, but we're rushing you to the hospital to put it back. So for me, it was as simple as I've removed my shoe, I'm going to the hospital to put it back on. So that's how my mind was processing it. It wasn't putting too much pressure into it. So I tried to remain calm, but that's when the adrenaline started coming down. It started wearing out, and then the pain kicked in. So that's when I started feeling pain while we were going to the hospital. It was too much pain that I couldn't actually stay still. And the painkillers that they offered me were not working. So I was trying everything possible to just remain calm and get to the hospital, but nothing was working. I even started having a conversation with the medics in the ambulance. It was the most, I would say, the most painful thing I've been through. So when you go to the hospital, the pain was just too much. When you arrive, they told me, okay, because when I got there, the doctor started checking up on me. One doctor, the second doctor. So the number kept building up. It got to like 7 doctors. So when the 7th doctor came, they walked up to me. They actually excused the guys who were with me. They were told to excuse me. So they told me, you know what? We can't put back your leg because of the nature of how it detached. It's like mashed. It was literally mashed. So it wasn't a clean cut. It was mashed until it broke. So it was like somebody was striking it at one spot until it broke. So they said because of the nature of how it detached, they can't put it back. It's too much work and it's mission impossible. So they told me they can't. The only thing they can do on that day, they'll take me in for surgery to control my bleeding. Then later on, I'll do the second surgery to shorten my stump so that it can fit a prosthesis. Actually, I lost my foot from this point. So they had to actually cut it short so that it fits a prosthesis.
Bili ndio maana wanakwanga hivyo na nguvu.
Aje?
Kuchumeki kyote.
Yeah.
At that time, I wasn't transit. I'm still in denial. Like, actually, my mind was telling me, this is a dream. Just wake up now. And I was actually thinking, how do I wake myself up from this? Like, it wasn't real. It was like a movie. Like, for me, I never ever pictured myself in that situation. I've been a guy who rarely goes to hospital, rarely falls sick. Been had an exciting life, outgoing, outdoor person, cheerful. That, you know, those kids who parents say, "Huyu ni msumbufu." So I was that type of kid. So I never pictured myself existing with no leg. Then the medics came. They checked up on me. Then I was actually it was like a waiting area. I don't know, after the operation, it was a waiting area. Then they took me back to my ward. So when I got there, they gave me, I was screaming at that time. I was in too much pain. So they gave me stronger painkillers. Then I passed out, slept, then woke up in the morning. When I woke up in the morning, a friend of mine who's a biker and also a doctor was in the room. So he was the one checking me up. He's called Doc. So woke up, I saw Doc. I was like, if I can see Doc here, then this is real. Like, this is real. So woke up, trying to put 1 and 2 together. I want to have a conversation. I don't know how. Initially, we were never very close with Doc. We were bikers, but we never used to have like personal, intimate conversation. So I'm looking at him, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go about it. Then he asked me how I am. I'm like, okay, I'm good. So for me, I wasn't telling him I'm literally good. I was telling him I'm good because that's what I was taught. That's the answer I was taught to give if somebody asks you how you are. So I was like, I'm good. It was like, okay, no, how are you feeling? Like that, like, okay. I was like, where? Because for me, I'm feeling too much pain. And he's like, how is your leg? I just started explaining to him where I felt pain and everything. So he actually he went through examining every body part I mentioned. Then he told me, he told me, it's actually like you're safe or what? Like your situation is under control of that kind of thing. So he told me that, then he was like, okay, you need to eat. He actually explained to me that it's not like the end of the road. So he tried to bring in the story of Oscar Pistorius. I was like, who the hell is that? I wasn't actually paying attention to Paralympics. I was like, who is that? So I played calm. Then when he left, I had my phone, tried to Google these guys. Like, then I saw guys, there are guys out there living with disability and they're doing amazing stuff. So for me, I had two fears. I was a gym junkie. I wasn't at peace. I wasn't ready to lose that. So my concern was like, can I go back to the gym? So when I checked online and it was check, you can. Then I was like, can I ever ride again? Then I checked online and guys were riding with their prosthesis. I was like, okay, cool, it's fine. So then at that time, then I actually started thinking about the whole thing. So I started going through the whole process. Then I started coming to terms with the whole situation. Then at that time, I was like, okay, now I don't have it, and I don't think it's gonna come back again. When I got discharged, I kind of had I had certain expectations. But when I got home, the expectations were not there. Like, I expected when I get home, I should start feeling better. But I was feeling worse, that the pain was too much. Living in pain every day, looking at people who don't know how to have a conversation with you, looking at people who are like, you can see from their eyes, they are either agonizing or in pain on your behalf. So actually, sadly, this got me into depression. It really messed me up, especially when just from hospital, I'm not working. The financial demands of my situation were just too much. Like, you're buying medicine every day, and medicines were very expensive. So you're spending money that you're not making. So when I check my bank balances, it's just actually getting me worse into depression. Then I was like, okay, the money that I had, I made it when I had two legs. And I don't have it anymore. How do I even manage to make money with just one leg? Life had no meaning. Like, waking up every day in the morning wasn't exciting. Food was, I felt like I was being forced to eat. Waking up felt like life is just worthless. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't take myself to the washroom. So my ex-girlfriend at that time had to actually like help me go to the washroom, like a baby, like a kid. Then after a period of time, I was like, okay, I just need somebody to talk to. So I went online, looked for an online psychologist or psychiatrist from the UK. Found some guy who I started talking to. So he was like a key pillar to me towards my recovery, because he was one of the guys who just listened to me. Like, I could have a crazy day at home, but I went online to talk to him. He never judged me. He never asked me questions I didn't know how to answer. He just listened. So he helped me towards my recovery. After my recovery, my biggest concern was just to go out there, start working again, make money again, be able to afford what you had, and live happily thereafter, which wasn't the case. Like, sometimes you think because you live with disability, like, challenges would look at you and say, okay, you passed. No, like, I went through the same tough challenges like any other. Okay, for me, I've gotten to a point where I'm having fun with it. Like, sometimes I would go to the gym with pants, then in the middle of the workout, I'll just chuck the pants and remain with shorts. So I'm trying to prank people here and there, but some people look at me and they're like, sometimes it wows them, sometimes gives them like a sense of like, okay, if this guy can do it, then why not? Some people look at me and they sympathize. Some actually fear for me, because for me, I don't shy away from the exercises. Like, I try to push myself to do all the exercise I was doing before. So sometimes it's risky for me, but I just have figured how to maneuver myself. And especially, I think it scares people the most when they see me on the bike riding. I had to understand one thing: it's an accident. And the fact that the accident happened while on a bike, the bike had no intentions of, the bike never sat down and planned on how to take my leg. It was actually my fault. Yet, if I braked earlier, the bike could have maneuvered. Then the blame will never been on the bike. Yeah, there were so many things I could have put the blame on. Yeah, but I actually chose to like, man, I'm just forgiving. I just want to start over again. That's how I encourage myself to start biking and even racing again. So the one leg at a time campaign is literally because I have one leg, and two, it's because I challenge myself to use what I have to try and change the narrative. There's a huge stigma towards mental health in Kenya and the world at large. There's a huge stigma when it comes to people living with disability. Like, you see somebody on a wheelchair, you think about them differently. You want to treat them differently. Like, it's not something we plan, but it's because of we are not informed enough in that area. So I decided to start one leg at a time just to change this narrative. Men suffer from depression, and actually men end up committing suicide. Why? They just can't handle it. And at times, subconsciously, we are responsible. The people around the men, like the men around the men and the women around the men. I want people to be informed enough about mental health. I want people to know what mental health is. I want people to understand how to know you're suffering from mental health. I want people to know where to run to when they know they're suffering from mental health. Currently, actually, mental health is the biggest cause of disability in the whole world. People end up disabled not because they're missing limbs. It's because mentally they haven't recovered. They're still stuck in whatever they went through.
Mtu anasikia vibaya.
Mtu anasikia vibaya. Tukitoa hii. Kweli?
Achilia. Dili unaweza fanya hivi? Kai.
Life will always happen. It will happen whether you like it or not. You're not certain about tomorrow, and you don't know what will happen. When you find yourself in a situation and you don't know, you don't have the answers, you need to ask yourself, is it permanent or temporary? If it's temporary, you need to figure yourself, what can I do to change the situation? If it's permanent, I have to talk to myself and convince myself to live with it for the rest of my life. For me, losing my leg was a permanent thing. I couldn't go back. So I had to convince myself to live with it for the rest of my life. Mental health is something that is treatable. If you find yourself in a situation, ask yourself, what can I do to get myself better? So there is always something that we can do as an individual. It starts with me, it starts with you. Everybody has a role to play.